Hi there and welcome to Transcorner Trailer Sales. Today we'll be walking you through your 2022 Coachmen Nano 203 RBK. We are just going to start off at the back of the unit. If you notice, you do got your stairs, so you can periodically go up top and check all your seals and everything. You got your spare tire located right at the back, and then located inside this bumper tube. You're just pinching the access block and opening that up, and you got your 10-foot sewer hose once fully extended. You're just taking note of those 2 ears there. It's going to be the same 2 ears that hook up to your sewer hose system. We just keep that stored in the back bumper to try and keep as much smell out of the unit as possible. You've got your 2 low point drains right here at the back, so when it's coming time to winterization, or you just don't want water going stale or stagnant inside the lines, you're just pulling these 2 caps off, and it's going to drain both the hot and the cold lines. Put your coax inlet. And then you do have your twist lock 30 amp connection. You're just taking note of that notch there. You're going to line it up with this notch on this side. Press into place, 8th turn to lock it in. Then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug end. Most campsites should have this and you can plug right on in, but let's say you have the unit at home or your campsite only has 15 amp service. We do include a 15 amp park adapter. Just keep it in mind, you're going down to 15 amps of power. You can't run anything like your air conditioner. It really is just to run your fridge and your lights. In this corner, as well as all 4 corners of the unit, you got your stabilizer jacks. You got a 3/4 inch drive nut right here. We include the manual tool inside the front compartment. Run this foot down to the ground. Once that foot contacts the ground, just giving another 1/8 turn to snug it up, and it's going to take the bouncer sway you see we have in the unit right now away. With today's day and age, impacts have become a more popular thing. You can hook up a 3/4 inch socket with your impact onto here. Just keep it in mind how much torque you put on them, because you can bend them pretty easily, so just keep that in mind. Then coming to your sewer outlet, you got that cap which just twists off, and it's like your standard sewer hose cap. You just line them up with the notches, lock it into place. Then you got your gray valve and your black valve. You're always going to want to empty your black valve first. This can be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. Then you can come behind that with your gray valve, which is typically a little cleaner water filled from your sinks and your showers. You got your black tank flush, so the way that works is you're going to thread a garden hose in there, turn it on, and that's just going to flush out that tank. But when doing so, you do have to ensure that you're hooked up, your sewer hose is hooked up and your tank valve is open, because you're pushing water in there, adding more pressure. You do run the risk of bursting your tank if that valve isn't open, so just be mindful of that. You got your exterior shower with hot and cold water. That does just open with your standard 751 key, which should come included with your unit. Further up ahead, you do got your fresh water fill. So if you're at a site, if you're out boondocking, your site doesn't have water, you can put a garden hose in there, turn it on, and that's what's going to fill your fresh tank, and that's what your water pump draws off of. The drain for that is just right below here. You got this valve. We currently have the unit summarized, so I drained everything for you. Just cracking that valve open does empty all the water out of your fresh tank. And inside this front compartment, you got your standard starter kit, and that's what your sewer hose came out of. You also have a 15-foot water hose, then some other miscellaneous goodies, including that 15 amp park adapter, which I've already told you about. This is going to be a manual override for your front tongue jack. And then you do just got that 3/4 inch manual drive tool, which I've already told you about earlier, for the stabilizer jacks. Coming around the front, located inside this battery, this box is your battery. That's which 12 volt runs off of. And then you do got your standard propane tanks right up front here. Most of the time you can get what you need done just by opening up this flap and getting access from the top. But for the purpose of the video, I will just remove the cover. It does just slide right out of place like so. Once that's out of place, you're going to notice right on the regulator, you do have a little arrow pointed there. That is to decide which tank you're drawing off of. So obviously with it pointed this way, you're going to draw off this tank. Once this tank were to go empty, you could just flip it over to the other side and start running off that tank when you're getting this one filled. And then to turn it on, it's just like any standard barbecue, counterclockwise, slowly and all the way open. Opens up the flow to the unit. Around this side, you got more storage right up front here. Then you got your entry door, which we're going to be entering through today, but we'll just finish off the rest of the outside stuff. So once we get this open, this is just your service port for your water heater. So big thing to note, whenever you first get to your campsite, just given this pressure relief valve pull, there should be a shot of water coming out of there, letting you know the tank's full. We do have the unit summarized, but I did drain the tank just because we are dipping into some low temperatures still. So that's why there's no water coming out of there. 1.1/8" drain bolt right down here near the bottom. And that's going to be it for that here. Fridge service port, not much you need to worry about here, but right here you do have your furnace exhaust. Whenever your furnace is running, this will be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. And then you do have your little exterior kitchen area. You just loosen off all these tabs, which will allow you to open this up. It is on gas struts, so it'll hold its own. Once we get inside here, you got a 120 mini fridge. It's going to hook up when you're hooked up to shore power, storage all around, sink with hot and cold water. And then right here, you're going to notice this travel strap, which should be hooked up anytime you're traveling. Holds your little outside barbecue into place. Like I said, making sure you do latch that travel strap. That way that doesn't go anywhere whenever you're traveling. Take a step on inside, you just push that up, folding it 90 degrees, it'll lock into place. That'll allow you to open up your door. You do have to have the door open all the way so you get the stairs out. Just this little tab, sliding it over, unlock the stairs to fold down. You do have adjustable feet, so you can adjust them to your campsite needs for nice and level stairs. Now that these are folded down, I'm just going to show you something quick. You're going to notice that door, if it's all the way open, does come into contact with that awning arm. So if you were to try to run that awning, there's a risk of you causing damage. So just always be mindful to have it 90 degrees, only 90 degrees open. Whenever you're running it in or out, just stay connected with the cautions down the road. Light switch on the wall here does turn on that outside awning LED. All the lights on the inside are on their own center push button. You got your awning control. Pushing and holding that out, the awning's going to start making its way out, and once fully extended, you're going to be able to see the back of the metal tube and the little flap hang down. Unfortunately, today, due to space, I won't be able to get it all the way out, but I'll be able to get it most of the way out so you can get a gist of what's going on. Whenever you get to about 5 km/h wind speeds, you are going to want to think about starting to bring that awning in. That way you don't run the risk of bending anything or ripping your fabric. Now that that's as far out as we can go, you can adjust your pitch by making sure this is loose anytime you run the awning in, making sure this is loose and leaving it loose. And then to bring it down, you're just pulling in on the arm, sliding that in, and then you can tighten up that knob. Now that does change the pitch of the awning head, allowing water to now run off. It also allows for more shade underneath, so you can do the same thing with the front arm, just like I said before, making sure before you run the awning, you're loosening off that tab on both sides, just so it can slide freely in and out, so you're not running the risk of bending anything. And closing it would just be as simple as holding in the in or retract button. It'll start making sure it's rolling the right way in, and once the arms contact the side of the trailer, the motors will automatically cut out. Next is your slide out switch. Holding that down makes that slide out come out. Before running your slide out, always making sure you know what's on either side of the slide, inside and out. That way you don't run the risk of damaging anything. Sometimes things do shift even inside, so if it were to get trapped behind there, it could be an issue later on. Once that awning is fully extended, you're going to hear the motors wind up and cut out, and that's when you know you're fully extended. Like I said, all the inside lights are on their own center push buttons, so you can turn those on like so in the bedroom area. The prior customer did put in this nice slider curtain, Velcros on either side. The original blind is inside the front compartment in case you were to want to switch back to that. Storage all around. On the other side is your emergency exit for the unit. Works pretty simple. You just take this red tab, pull on it, the whole screen will pop out of place, and then at that point, you can just pop this handle up, push it out, and hop on out of the unit. Over here, you got your stereo for the unit. Pretty much just like home, minus the fact of having Zone A and Zone B. Zone A is your interior, Zone B is your exterior speakers. Other than that, like I said, just like home, you got HDMI, Bluetooth, USB, aux, all of those good things. Bottle opener right here. Kitchen area. Again, you got a light on its own center push button. So because both the stove and the furnace run off propane in this unit, and they do give off fumes whenever they're running, it's always being mindful that you know where the LP detector is, which is right here near the ground. If this guy ever starts going off, don't panic. You're just getting worrisome levels inside. So open up some windows and turn on some vents just to ventilate it out that little bit. They are also very sensitive to cleaning chemicals. So whenever you're cleaning around this, if it starts going off, it's probably that, but use your best judgment. Getting to the stove, it's pretty simple to light. Sometimes if you turn the propane system off completely and it's been off a while, it allows air into the system. So sometimes it can take a few minutes to get things purged. So whenever you do turn on that propane system after a while, I always recommend firing up the stove first. That way you do have to use a barbecue lighter. And then this is a good way to purge the whole system so that if you were to fire up the furnace, the fridge, or anything else on propane, it works flawlessly. Being careful, this is glass, and whenever you're running this, I recommend cracking this window open just to allow some of those fumes out. Microwave right down below, pretty much just like home, not much I'm going to show you there. This is going to be the only output for your furnace, puts all its air out through here. If you open up this cupboard, behind this false panel, you're going to notice the screws out right here, which will allow you to pull that back a little bit. You're going to see those bypass valves for the water heater. And then the bypass for the water pump is located behind these two screws. Pull them out, this false panel will pop out of the way, and it'll give you access to that water pump. You got your pneumatic fridge, pretty simple fridge, freezer. Temperature control is right here, so the higher you slide this plastic piece up the fin, the colder it's going to get. The controls are right up top here. Pushing that button on, whenever it's on auto, it's going to first search for shore power. Once shore power is taken away, it'll automatically switch over to gas. If you do want it to run solely on gas, you do just have to press that button, and then it'll go to fire up on gas. If this check light were to come on, it's just letting you know that it failed to fire on gas. So it could be a purging issue, like I said before, so try it again. Otherwise, you can call us and set up an appointment, and we can figure that out, but it does work as of now. Furnace control is on the wall here. You just have to slide this tab all the way to the right. It's going to be its hottest setting. Anywhere before that is cooler. Whenever you fire the furnace up and then turn it off, it is going to run for an additional 3 minutes just to allow itself to cool down as an added safety feature. Up on the ceiling is where you get your controls for all your air conditioners. So when you turn it over to the gray setting, that's just the air conditioner moving air around. No cooling involved. It's just using the air conditioner to move air. If you turn it over to the blue, that's when the compressor kicks in, and you do have air conditioning throughout. Obviously, you have 3 different fan settings, and then you got this setting here for how cold you'd like it. For the air disbursement, you have a couple different flaps on either side, so you can control which area gets more air. That's going to be a personal preference thing. Right up top, you got your vent fan lid. Opening that up all the way, turning it on. Works pretty simple. Then to close it, you're just closing it all the way. You do already have max air vent covers on this unit, so you don't have to worry about that. Over here is going to be your little entertainment area. You do have a TV back here, so if you were to want to mount a TV, you can do so. Otherwise, you can just plop it on the ledge. Right up top, you got your 2 power plug-ins as well as a cable satellite outlet. Right next to that is that little black button. That is just turning the antenna on the roof. I typically leave it on because it also improves radio frequency, but you can turn it off if you'd like. Again, it's going to be a personal preference thing. And then right down below, you got your main fuse and breaker panel. Whenever a breaker trips, it'll sit in the middle. So you just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. And you have all your fuses down below. Dinette area, it's set up as a seating area currently. You can switch over to a bed in case you're going to have guests. You do just have to pull the bottom table legs out of place, set the tabletop inside its ledges, and you have yourself another bed. Last but not least, we will step into the bathroom. Light switch again, it's just on its own center push button. You got your sink with hot and cold water. This is your main GFI plug, so if you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would be the first place I'd look, as all the plugs are GFI. Just making sure it's not tripped. You got reset in the middle, test on the left. Storage all around. You do have another vent fan in here. And then on the wall, you're going to notice you got a few different options here. You got your tank heater option. So this does have an extended camping season option. It's just essentially a heating element taped onto the bottom of the tank. It's for extended camping season. Unfortunately, our Manitoba winters get much too cold for it to be adequate. Anything over zero, any temperature below zero, you are running the risk of freezing things. So just keep that in mind. And then you got your monitor panel system as well as your little water pump switch. Monitor panel system's self-explanatory. You push what you want to read, and it's going to tell you the corresponding level. And then you got your water pump switch, turning that on does draw from your fresh tank. And then you got your water heater options, so you can fire it on either gas or electric. If you fire up on an electric, turn the switch on, the heating element's automatically going to start heating the water. And then you got gas, which is the quicker option to get hotter water. It's always going to heat up faster on gas, but obviously less efficient. Whenever you turn it on, this little red light's going to come on. The water heater is going to try lighting itself 3 times. If on the third try it doesn't light, this reset light's going to come on. In that case, you do just have to turn this off, wait about 30 seconds to a minute, and then try turning it back on, and it'll try relighting itself. And that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.